It's time for Dodger Baseball. Live from Dodger Stadium, Sportsnet LA presents the Dodgers as they take on the Miami Marlins. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Monday evening to you, wherever you may be. Marlins and Dodgers, game one of a four-game series, and the Dodgers welcome back some old pals like Dee Gordon and Coach Lenny Harris, and, of course, Lorenzo Bundy, and the bench coach, that would be Tim Wallach, topped off by the skipper, Don Mattingly. They come over, and the Dodgers are pretty happy to see the Marlins. They've had a great deal of success against the Miami Ball Club. They've won 5 straight home series against the Marlins, and for that matter, the Dodgers have won 8 of their last 11 games. The Marlins have lost 8 of the last 11. The Dodgers have only lost 1 season series so far, and that would be early in the year when they bowed to the San Francisco Giants. As far as the pitching is concerned, Ross Stripling on the mound for the Dodgers had a rough night going up against Atlanta, although the Dodgers win the game 5-3. And on the other side of the coin, Wei-Yin Chen on the mound. He had a good game against Atlanta, but he did give up 3 runs and suffered the loss. 2 other points to make about the differences in the team. The Dodgers, of course, in first place, 2 games in front of Arizona. And for Miami, they are 7.5 games behind the Washington Nationals. So sit back, pull up a chair. We got a good one coming up, and we'll be right back with a whole lot more right after this. T-Mobile. Get Major League coverage. T-Mobile has doubled its 4G LTE in the last year. Hi, everybody, and a very pleasant Monday evening to you, wherever you may be. It is cold, unusually cold. Snow in the mountains, wind blowing from left to right. But nevertheless, we'll forget about the weather when we get the ball game underway. And before the game began, it's hard to believe it is 40 years ago that afternoon when Rick Monday raced over two fellows trying to set fire to the American flag, and Rick scooped it up on the dead run and brought it safely back to the Dodger dugout. Got a standing ovation for the effort, and each year we recite the same thing: Rick, you made a great play. So tonight he was the first ball honoree, throwing to his former teammate Steve Yeager, who was the catcher that afternoon when the Cubs were here. Nice way to begin the night to get our minds off the weather, and the weather could very well influence the game. All you have to do is look at the wind, which is blowing from left to right and for quite some time. In fact, earlier it was blowing even straight in, which is rare indeed. For Don Mattingly's Miami Marlins, that's right, sounds a little funny, but here's his lineup on the card. Dee Gordon at second base, Marcell Ozuna in center, and Christian Yelich in left field. Giancarlo Stanton in right field. Justin Bour at first base. JT Realmuto will be behind the plate. Derek Dietrich will be at third base. Then you have Adeiny Echeverria at short, and Wei-Yin Chen, the left-hander, on the mound. For Dee Gordon, he'll be facing Ross Stripling. Stripling ready to go to work with a fine earned run average, 2.6. And interestingly enough, the opposition is hitting only 183 against him. Gordon takes a look at a pitch low, and we're underway. You could say a lot of things about young D, the fact that he's become a remarkable player, but I like to talk about the flash of hope. That's a charity he has as he swings and misses. The charity to help children whose parents died as a result of domestic abuse. He works with the Florida District Attorney's Office, inviting one child a month to join him in the clubhouse during batting practice. So Dee Gordon is not only a good ball player, he is a fine young man. Temperature 61 degrees on this blustery evening, and Stripling comes back 1-2. It's punched on the ground to third. Up with it there is Turner to make the play, and we have one away. We'll set the Dodgers defensively a little different than normal after that long game yesterday. Yasmani Grandal is at first. Howie Kendrick at second. Charlie Culberson at short, and Justin Turner at third. Kike Hernandez in left. Trace Thompson in center. Yasiel Puig in right. A.J. Ellis behind the plate, and Ross Stripling on the mound. Out of Blue Bell, Pennsylvania is young Ross, and the first pitch in for a strike to Marcell Ozuna. Ozuna struggling, but showing signs of coming out of a slump with a little 4-game hitting streak. Looks at a pitch that catches a corner, and all of a sudden he's in a hole now. No balls and 2 strikes. Stripling looks down the barrel to get a sign. He's 6'3" and a good 190. A little bit low with the next pitch. And the count 1-2. Dodgers need innings badly. They had 7 pitchers in yesterday's wild game in Ohio. Or actually in Denver. The next pitch low, ball 2, 2-2. Boys wearing the hoods in the dugout. Tomorrow it'll be Caton Hershaw, and he'll be going up against Tom Kohler. Kohler, not colder, and we'll see about that tomorrow. 2-2 pitch on the way, sprayed foul off to the right and out of play. Marcell Ozuna had a stretch 2 years ago. He homered in 4 straight games. And one thing that happened to Ozuna that is really rare, I mean really rare. 2-2 pitch on the way at his feed, ball 3. The Miami Marlins outfielder hit a home run to left field in the 2nd inning against the Phillies. It was a tremendously high blast and actually came down on top of the foul pole. Now, we've seen a lot of balls hit the pole, but never on the very top of it. and he takes low, ball 4. So Gordon grounds to third.
Left fielder number 21, Christian Yelich.
Osuna draws a walk. And now one of the better ball players in the league, and the league is really just finding out about it now. But Christian Yelich hitting .379. He has a home run, 7 runs batted in. Yelich tall and lean. Big throw to first. Osuna diving back to the bag. Osuna in his minor league career stole as many as 17. In the big leagues he slowed down a little bit. So 1 out, first inning, no score. Stripling out of his stretch, back he comes, and it's fouled away. Pretty good sinker, fastball, probably the 2-seamer, and Yelich fouled it off. I would think if you start talking about the top players in the league, you would probably not mention Christian Yelich. And yet, that's exactly where he is. Here's the strike 1 pitch on the way to Christian. Stripling ready, delivers, change away. And the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Christian, born in Thousand Oaks, still lives there. Went to the University of Miami, graduating from Westlake High School in Thousand Oaks. 1 ball and 1 strike. Stripling ready, comes back off speed and misses. 2 balls and 1 strike. Yelich is a left-hand hitter facing Stripling. That's about the only thing that he does left-handed. Everything else right-handed. He just happened to be a little guy, picked up the bat, swung left-handed, and that's that. All right, 2-1 the count to Christian. Stripling another look over, back to his hitter, swung on and fouled away. Actually, if you want to start the time, going back to May 23rd, that's almost a year. The leading hitters in baseball, the number 1 man, Christian Yelich, believe it or not. That would be since May 23rd. He's hit .336. Here's the 2-2 pitch coming up. Yelich has a look at it, and it's low, ball 3, 3-2. So Ross Stripling in a little bit of trouble, and big trouble on deck. Meanwhile, Rick Honeycutt checking as Giovanni Stanton, one of the more feared hitter in the game, waiting on deck. 3-2. We'll watch Osuna. He's not going, and the pitch is dribbled foul up along first base. Stripling so talented. He's an emerging .295 career hitter. And he hits them whether they're left or right. So Stripling with 1 out, first inning, no scores, made 17 pitches. Yelich waiting. Osuna did not go the last time. There he goes. Swung on and foul back. Christian Yelich, a tough out. Last year he got everybody's attention. It was first day or 2 of October. He was in Philadelphia. The club had a doubleheader, and he had 8 hits in the doubleheader. Bill Terry way back. Frank Thomas had 9, and Yelich 8. That is some doubleheader for a hitter. 3-2. Osuna is going again. It's swung on. Big chopper to the right side. Kendrick will make the play. Safely into second base goes Osuna, so by running him, they avoided the double play. And now Giovanni Stanton coming up. Stanton's dad is named Mike, and for his first year he was Mike Stanton. He's also known within the family as Cruz, but he decided to go for the family name Giancarlo, and everybody knows him. 2 things about him when you look at him. First of all, he wears a mask to protect the left side of his face. He was hit in the head right on the face by Mike Fiers of Milwaukee back in 2014. He also last year broke the hamate bone in his hand, so we wanted to look at the bat. I'll tell you why in a moment. Strike 1 pitch, and that's low and inside, 1-1. During spring training, Giovanni was using a bat that they call the Axe. It had a totally different flat handle, though he tried and used it, but apparently decided to go with the regular bat. So Giancarlo Stanton at the plate takes a pitch on the outside corner, and the count 1-2. Stripling knows very well he's dealing with dynamite here. They check. They say Stanton, when he hits the ball hard, it leaves the bat over 99 miles an hour. Giancarlo in and out. Here at Dodger Stadium, when we first saw him a couple of years ago, we really thought that he might hit one out of the stadium. Well, he hit one 478 feet to left field, landing on the canopy above the left field pavilion. He hit it against Mike Bolsinger, and watch this thing on the top and out. So he lived up to what everybody thought about him. He takes another pitch away, and for Stripling now, the pitches are starting to mount. 3-2. He also had a home run against Clayton Kershaw here that traveled 452 feet. 3-2 the count. Osuna at second, 2 out, first inning, no score, and the next pitch is low. So Stripling now has walked 2, and the batter following Stanton. Justin Bour, the first baseman, checking in. Honeycutt watching them mount up on his chart. Justin Bour hitting .273 with a home run, 7 runs batted in, and a left-hand batter. He's out of Virginia, originally drafted by the Cubs. He's a good-looking kid. He's 6'4" and about 260 pounds. Went to George Mason University. Spells that last name B-O-U-R. Justin Bour. Earlier when he came up, he was pull happy. He tried to hit everything into right field, but he has started to learn and now hit the ball where it's pitched, and he now is very tough to defend. The Dodgers play Trace Thompson slightly towards right center, but of course that's the prevailing wind. This year, Bour has hit 52% of his batted balls to the left side. Strike 1 pitch on the way. Over the top, swung on and fouled back, and the count 0-2. So even though the Dodgers have a modified shift, they're not totally committed, but Kendrick is a good 10 feet out in the outfield. Charlie Culberson directly behind the bag. Turner all alone on the left side. Bour has a lot of power. Last year he had 23 home runs in 129 games. Goes after a high fastball and strikes out. So Bour helps out. He certainly helped the Dodger pitcher Ross Stripling, and at the end of half an inning, Marlins nothing, Dodgers coming up. out of a shaky first inning. He made 28 pitches. And remember, the Dodgers burned up if you wish, 7 pitchers in Colorado. So they need some innings from Stripling to give the bullpen a little rest. And he has already spent 28 pitches. Let's take a look now at the Dodger lineup as Kike Hernandez strides to the plate. He's in left field. Then you have Howie Kendrick at second, Yasiel Puig in right, Justin Turner at third, Yasmani Grandal at first, Trace Thompson in center, A.J. Ellis behind the plate, Charlie Culberson, the shortstop, Ross Stripling, the pitcher. On the mound, Wei-Yin Chen, left-hander out of Taiwan, and quite a young pitcher. Tell you why in a moment. Left-hander had his early days in the American League. Pitches a strike, 0-1 the count to Kike. The top 4 winners among left-handers in the American League since 2012. He's right up there. Here's the strike 1 pitch on the way, and that's a little low. David Price, Chris Sale, C.J. Wilson, and our man Chen. There was a scout watching him when he pitched for Baltimore. Here's the 1-1 pitch on the way, swung on, foul back 1-2. And the scout said, if I didn't know better, I would swear I was looking at Tommy Glavine. Well, a few notes about Chen. He's an even 6, 195, and he's a veteran winner. Gave up 3 runs and lost last time out against Atlanta. High fastball driving Hernandez off the bag, 1-2. He pitched 8 years in Japan. He had Tommy John surgery about 10 years ago. 2-2 pitch on the way. Fastball grounded to the right side. Gordon, with a Gold Glove last year, makes the play for the out, and we have 1 down. Take a look at Miami. Defensively, they look this way with Bohr, Gordon, Echevarria, and Dietrich on the infield. Yelich in left, Osuna in center, Stanton in right, and JT Giamotto behind the plate. JT, by the way, it's Jacob Tyler. So here is Howie Kendrick. Chen ready, comes with a sinking fastball at 92 at the knees. 0-1 the count. Chen made his debut 4 years ago against the Yankees. Strike 1 pitch is swung on and missed, and the count 0-2. The game was broadcast live on national television in Taiwan. He went 5 1/3, gave up 2 earned runs, struck out 6. Here's his strike 2 pitch on the way. Kendrick looks at a pitch in the dirt. 1-2 the count. Well, we were talking about Dee Gordon and his charity. Chen started a baseball scholarship program for Taiwanese children, and he expanded the efforts to cover animal protection and children's welfare. Kendrick drives one up into that wind in right field, but it's not blowing nearly as hard, and Stanton will make the catch. If we had had the wind that was blowing just a little while ago, that would have been in the pavilion.
Right fielder, number 66, Yasiel
So we
Puig.
have 2 down, and Yasiel Puig coming up. Yasiel Puig, always an exciting player, a highly talented player, and never more so than the games in Colorado. A great leaping catch as he banged into the right field wall, and the monstrous throw to third base. Over the years, we've seen a lot of great throws from, oh gosh, people like Roberto Clemente and Willie Mays, etc. But his throw was rather unbelievable. The 1-0 pitch foul back. All of the other great throws that we had seen were basically line drive throws. But he leaped in the air, scrambled after the ball, and then airmailed it. And it was a perfect throw. It would have hit third base, except Turner made the catch. The 1-1 pitch on this one fouled away, and the count 1-2. But Yasiel Puig showed it all while the team was in Denver. Puig back up, 1 ball, 2 strikes. Chen comes back 1-2 and drops it low. Chen, when he made his debut in 2012, by the time it was 2015, he had over 100 career starts in the major leagues. And if he gets 3 runs, he usually wins. 2-2 pitch on the way. Swung on and missed, and down goes Puig. So the Dodgers tiptoe through the first inning. Chen walks off with a minimum number of pitches, and at the end of an inning, no score. Second inning. Hello, little man. Yeah, turn around and say hello to everybody. It won't be long. You won't be using a scorecard. You'll probably be out there playing ball. Yeah, you've got the look of a real player. We can tell. Meanwhile, here is a real player. JT Realmuto, Jacob Tyler Realmuto. September the 8th last year, he became the first catcher to hit an inside the park home run and a standard home run in the same game since the late Gary Carter back in 1980. He has just come off a 4-hit game against the Giants and won the game with his 4th hit, which was a home run. Realmuto takes 2 strikes in the count, 0-2. He's from Del City, Oklahoma, a suburb of Oklahoma City. Strike 2 pitch on the way, swung on, hit into right field for a base hit. Puig backs up, plays it on a couple of hops. Realmuto takes a turn, so boy, he's red hot. 5 straight hits. Say, don't forget, get the games you want at the best price with an 11-game pick-em plan. Guarantee your seats to highly anticipated matchups with the Giants, Angels, Cubs, and Red Sox games, or great giveaways like the bobblehead and t-shirt night. So visit Dodgers.com/mini plans. Realmuto, a line drive single to right. Derek Dietrich coming up. So Stripling, who went pretty far on a no-hitter, has now given up 2 walks and a single in 1 inning. No score yet. Dietrich asking for time. Another left-hand batter in there against Stripling. Strike 1 pitch on the way. Hit late down to shortstop. Culberson's only play is to first, and he guns it over there nicely. Down to second base goes Realmuto. And the batter will be Adeiny Hechavarria.
Shortstop number 3, Adeiny Hechavarria.
Hechavarria checking in. There's a lot of debate, and if you're in Miami, they say he's the one. If you're anywhere else, most people think that the best shortstop in the National League is Simmons, but there are a lot of people say no, Adeiny is the guy. Struggling, however, with the bat, hitting only 200. He's out of Cuba. He set a record a couple of years ago in Philadelphia. He had 7 RBIs, which is a high for a Cuban player. Tripled in 3 in the first and hit a grand slam in the third. Adeiny takes a strike, and the count 0-1. He's 5'11", about 185, from Santiago de Cuba, and originally signed by the Blue Jays. Of course, other Marlins have had 7 RBIs in a game. Cody Ross, Gary Sheffield, Greg Colburn, but he was the first Cuban to do it. Adeiny waiting. He was a star on Cuba's junior national team, so they knew growing up eventually he'd make it. Right-hand batter takes low. Stripling struggling. 2 walks in the first inning, a leadoff single here. He's already made 35 pitches, and he's in the second inning with 1 out. Echeverria waiting. Dave Roberts watching anxiously, and Stripling's 1-1 pitch on the way. Right-hander over the top, and he's low and away. So he's fighting it out there, that's for sure. The big deal with Toronto that brought Echeverria to Miami. Jose Reyes went to Toronto, but he's moved on. And here's the 2-1 pitch on the way. Sliced line drive to Grandal. He throws over to short to Culberson, and you have the double play. So the Dodgers a bit fortunate, not to mention Stripling. A line drive right at Grandal, who threw to the shortstop for the double play. No runs, a hit, nobody left. At the end of an inning and a half, no score. Ross Stripling very fortunate. That line drive could easily have gone down the line to score one. Instead, right at Grandal, who turned it into the double play. The wind is still with us, sometimes straightening the flags out on the poles in straightaway center field. Other times, and that was the Dodger break, on the fly ball to right field by Howie Kendrick. So right now it's medium, but it's going to be with us all evening. And for the Dodgers now, going against Wei-Yin Chen, it'll be Justin Turner, Yasmani Grandal, and then Trace Thompson. First pitch inside, ball one, 1-0 the count. Turner, who means so much to the Dodgers, struggling a little bit, hitting .246, and the 1-0 pitch is taken for a strike on the inside corner. So Turner we know, Chen we don't know, but we have some notes about him. If Chen gets 3 runs or more, he's 41-10. So he is tough as he gets a strike. Base stealers, however, can run on him. 25 for 34. And what he really has to worry about base runner stealing third, being left-handed. His back is to the shortstop when he's pitching. The 1-2 pitch on the way. Curveball, line drive right at third, snared by Dietrich, and just like that, a hard out. One down. So Chen is fortunate as Turner lines out, and Yasmani Grandal coming up. For Dave Roberts, in one respect, he's rolling the dice tonight. It's a little early for it, but he is playing both catchers. A.J. Ellis behind the plate and Grandal at first. It's a little risky. Left-handed Chen delivers, gets a strike, and the count 0-1. So Grandal hitting .320. He's been on base save 7 of his last 10 games. And the strike one pitch, breaking ball off the plate. 1-1. So Chen doesn't fool around. He's right at the rubber, gets the ball and ready to pitch. 1 ball and 1 strike to count. Chen ready, comes back, fastball, slow roller to third. Dietrich charging, gloves, throws, and gets him. So Grandal, little ground ball to third. 2 out here in the second inning, and Trace Thompson coming up. A couple of more notes about Chen, since we don't see him very often. We told you he gives up a lot of stolen bases. Interestingly enough, almost 40% of the home runs that he gives up, he'll give up with 2 strikes. That's very high in the National League. He also has had trouble in this league in the first 2 hitters. Left-hander ready. Here he comes, hitting the air foul off to the right. No balls and 1 strike to Trace. 6 of the 9 runs that Chen has allowed have come with 2 out. Here's the strike one pitch on the way. Sneaks a little off-speed pitch low. 1 ball and 1 strike. He doesn't allow a lot of home runs. He's 12th in the league, 50% below the average. He's allowed 2. And the pitch a little low, 2 balls and 1 strike. So we have 2 out. Second inning, no score. Chen will lead it off for the Marlins in the third. Now the 2-1 pitch hit in the air, slicing away from Standen, going down in the corner and lands foul. And that time the wind helped the Marlins. I think if it was not blowing left to right, that might have carried at least to the corner and fair ground. Every time you look out there, it's not doing what you're talking about. But trust us. 2-2 the count to Trace Thompson. Had 1 hit so far, clean single by Real Muto to right field. Chen ready, comes back, missing low and inside. So he goes 3-2. Wei In Chen from Taiwan. His 3-2 pitch on the way. Thompson swings, golfs a chopper into left field. Big high bouncer. So with 2 down, Thompson a single to left, and of course the big play for the Dodgers was that leadoff line drive hit by Turner and fielded by Dietrich. For the Dodgers, of course, Real Muto led off with a single, advanced to second, and the line drive by Echevarria turned into a double play. So here is A.J. Ellis. Had a home run in Denver, his first home run of the year. Came out of Denver going 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs as well. Chen looks at first, works the plate, fastball hit in the air to center. Coming up for it is Osuna and puts it away. So a couple of hard hit balls, nothing else. No runs, 1 hit, a man left, and at the end of 2, no score. game. Chen, Gordon, and Osuna coming up in that order. Got something for you. Wanted to make sure I would tell you. Do you have a computer? Okay. So the man decided to change his password on his computer, and he used the word incorrect. That way, if he forgot his password, all he had to do is enter anything, and the computer would say, your password is incorrect. Anything to help you out there. Okay, third inning. And here is Chen. Waiting on deck, D. Gordon. And first pitch in for a strike, and the count 0-1. The big boy out of Taiwan. Hits left-handed, bats left-handed, pitches left-handed, and he's a good one all the way. Last year with the Marlins, 11-8, and the year before, 16-6. The 0-2 pitch waved at and missed, and down he goes. Second strikeout for Stripling. And the batter now will be D. Gordon. Gordon grounded out. Gordon was talking about the fact that two things have changed for him. And number one, he stopped hitting fly balls. Once he got the act of hitting the ball on the ground, he suddenly was getting a lot of base hits. And of course, last year hit .333 to win the title. Takes a strike and the count 0-1. Another thing he has done, he's not trying to walk. He said walk just got him into a lot of trouble. Strike one pitch on the way, fouled off, 0-2. When he walked, he had 46 walks while hitting .333. Strike two pitch on the way. Stripling delivers, swung on and missed, and down goes Gordon. So consecutive strikeouts by Stripling, 2 down in the third, and Marcell Osuna coming up. Good breaking ball, swinging right over the top of it goes Gordon, and down he goes. Three strikeouts for Ross Stripling. We're in the third, no score. And the first pitch to Osuna just off the plate, little high, ball one. Osuna walked in the first inning, got as far as second base. 1 ball and no strikes. Over the top and missing with a 90-mile-an-hour fastball. So Stripling in a hole now. 2 balls and no strikes. Osuna came into the game hitting .227. Hits a ground ball foul outside of third. Perry Hill coaching at first for Miami, and for the Dodgers, a former Dodger, and a good one he was, Lenny Harris. Here's the 2-1 pitch on the way. That's off the plate. Lenny Harris in the third base coaching box, actually a bit out of it. But Lenny played with the Dodgers from 1989 to 1993. 3-1 pitch is low, ball 4. So for Stripling, making a lot of pitches, he has walked 3, he has struck out 3, and the batter now a very dangerous hitter, Christian Yelich. So Yelich from Thousand Oaks checking in at the plate. Last year, May the 22nd, he was hitting .178. He just could not get things done. The pitch to him is swung on, line down the left field line, and foul. So Yelich will have to come back. So from May the 22nd, he was hitting .178. He finished the year at .300. How did he do that? Well, he had to hit .329 the rest of the year, and started off this year hitting .379. So Yelich is really a young player. You really want to follow his career. All right, Christian back out. 0-1 the count. They asked Yelich, what would you be if you weren't a ball player? He said, I'd like to be a Navy SEAL. Strike one pitch, swung on, high fly ball, left center but playable. Thompson just waiting and waiting, makes the catch, the wind dying down, so no factor. The Yelich flies to center. No runs, no hits, a walk, and a man left. And at the end of 2.5 innings, no score. Third inning, no score in the ball game. Charlie Culberson, then Ross Stripling, the pitcher, and then Kike Hernandez in that order. Charlie Culberson ready to get in, hitting .222. He has 4 runs batted in and out of the lineup, of course, giving Corey Seager a rest tonight. Chen ready, fastball, and that's at the knees for a strike. Boy, he gets that over right away. He is out in front right after the hitter immediately. He's given up 1 hit, single by Trayce Thompson. Strike one pitch on the way, high and away with an off-speed pitch, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike. Culberson, who impressed in spring training, continues to impress. Wei-Yin Chen ready in his 1-1 pitch. Fastball, line drive, base hit down the line. Over to cut it off is Yelich, rounding first, but holding on a 1-hopper into the bag. Great play by Christian Yelich, holding that to a single.
Pitcher number 68.
So Culberson opens up, and it's a bullet into left. Got a good turn on it and got it out of there in a hurry. So the single by Culberson, that will bring up Stripling. Going way over to his right to backhand the ball was Yelich, and then fired a perfect strike into second base. Good play. So the Dodgers now have 2 hits. Meanwhile, Stripling shows bunt. Chen looks over at first, and the pitch is low and inside, gets away, and down to second base easily goes Culberson. So Realmuto had some trouble with that pitch. He kind of backhanded and swept the glove at the ball. So that was a bad play by the catcher, and indeed that is a pass ball. A rather awkward attempt to catch by JT. So Culberson at second. So now Stripling trying to bunt, get him over. The corners come up. Bohr in on the grass. Dietrich a little back towards the bag. Fake throw to second. There wasn't anybody covering. Echeverria started a break and then held up. No score, bottom of the third. No runs, 2 hits for the Dodgers. No runs, 1 hit for the Marlins. Wei-Yin Chen set, ready and deal. Stripling pulls the bat back, and the pitch is low. So Chen now in a jam, 2 balls and no strikes. Now Chris Woodward wants to talk to make sure that Stripling understands, is the bunt still on, and we'll find out the results of that in a moment. So in the inning, Culberson singles to left, advances to second on a pass ball. No score, 3rd inning. Stripling is not showing bunt. Now he does in a crouch. Chen ready, delivers, and the bunt is down. Good one. Picked up by Dietrich, the third baseman. Advancing to third goes Culberson. So a fine play by Stripling to move his man along. And that brings up Kike Hernandez, who grounded out in the 1st inning. Dodger leadoff hitters this season. Well, first of all, Chait Utley has been absolutely phenomenal. 15 leadoff assignments, hitting .333, on base .380, ops .865. But look at Kike in 5 starts as a leadoff man, hitting .529, on base .588. And here we go with a runner at third and 1 out. Chen delivers a drive foul down the line. But boy, Kike was all over that one. Hernandez, 2 home runs, 8 runs batted in. Tough moment. Don Mattingly twisting and turning a little in the dugout. Runner at third, 1 out, no score, 3rd inning. Chen ready and comes back and in on the hands. 1 ball and 1 strike. For the Dodgers, they've had great success against the Marlins. They've won 5 straight series here at Dodger Stadium. Dave has his ball club playing very well. 1-1 pitch fouled off. The Dodgers have won 8 of the last 11, and the Marlins have lost 8 of the last 11. The Marlins have to stop the bleeding. If they have a game 4 runs or less scored by the opposition, they're 6-3. But if they give up 5 runs or more, they are 0-8. 1-2 pitch on the way, waved at and missed. An off-speed pitch. The throw goes to first since it was in the dirt. Nowhere for Culberson to go, so that's a big out as Kike is fooled.
Number 47, Howie Kendrick.
That will be the 2nd strikeout for Wei-Yin Chen, and it'll bring up Howie Kendrick. Howie Kendrick hit the ball hard to right field, but the wind was not blowing as hard as it was, and it just died. Talking about the wind dying, that's where it is right now. The flag's hanging limply in center field. And the first pitch a strike. Boy, Chen is a magician at getting that first pitch in there. So 0-1 the count. Chen out of a stretch. Down the line from third comes Culberson. And the next pitch in there. And immediately he's out in front of the hitter. No balls and 2 strikes. Chen hitting 92 basically with his fastball. 84 slider. 76 with a changeup. Culberson down the line. And the strike 2 pitch swung on, high chopper over the mound. Charging is Gordon. Turns on the run. Makes the play. So a nice play by D. Gordon. For the Dodgers, a leadoff single, and they leave a man at third. And at the end of 3, no score. Is brought to you by the Dodge Challenger. Test drive one at your local Dodge dealer today. Top of the fourth inning, no score in the ballgame. Yes, to have a little energy, you got to light up a small city. Every move, sheer poetry. Way to go, young lady. Oops. Oops. They all fall down. Yeah, it's whether you go back to it or not. Meanwhile, here comes Giovanni Stanton. And probably hits one down the left field and does just what you expect him to do. He hits a home run. He is absolutely remarkable as far as what he has done against the Dodgers. Stanton, who, by the way, signed a contract for something like $325 million, hits it out. He now has 19 extra base hits, including 11 home runs in 30 games against the Dodgers. Big, slow curveball, and he killed it. So he has the highest slugging percentage all time for a hitter against the Dodgers. So 1-0 Miami. He is something. Pitch low, 2 balls and no strikes. Stanton is from Sherman Oaks. He went to school at Notre Dame High School. He's from Panorama City. Boy, he is something special. And thank goodness, after being hit in the face, he will always remember September 11th. The nation will never forget September 11th, nor will young Stanton, who was seriously hit in the face by Mike Fiers of Milwaukee. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Hard ground ball to first, right on the line. Taking it to the bag is Grandal. So 1 out, 1-0 in favor of the Marlins.
Number 11.
And the batter now,
Realmuto.
JT Realmuto, coming up. Well, for Stanton, I bet his eyes got really big on that slow curveball. That was a hanger. Realmuto, who went 4 for 4 against San Francisco, including a game-winning home run, came up and singled to right in his first at-bat tonight. Ball 1. A moment ago, we were talking about Stanton's contract. $325 million. And he was talking about the weird things that people ask about somebody making that kind of money. And one of the questions was, if you take a 2-hour nap, how much money are you making while you're sleeping? You know what the answer is? $5,700. And there's a drive to left. TK over to pick it off. So Realmuto almost hit it out. Nice play by Kike. 2 down. And Derek Dietrich coming up.
Number 32.
But when you talk to Stanton and when you read about things he has said, oh sure, he's delighted to get all the money. But what he wants to know is the Marlin ownership trying to win. There's Christian Yelich with him. And there's a line drive smoked into right field. Hendrick up the ladder, couldn't get it. So a home run, ground ball, fly ball,
Number 3,
single.
Adeiny Echeverria.
Echeverria coming up. Shortstop hit a line drive that had double all over it, only was right at Grandal, who turned it into a double play. Echeverria struggling now, dipping under 200. And ball 1. You have to go back to the second round of the draft in 2007. The 76th player was Giancarlo Stanton, and the 78th player picked Freddie Freeman, the fine hitter with Atlanta. 1 ball and 1 strike. Another thing about Stanton, in trying to stay in shape, and he's one of those guys who works out about 8 days a week if it's possible. He went to UCLA, not to school, but he went there. Now there are 15 columns of 80 steps each at the tracks there where the team works out. He put a 60-pound load on his back and made it all the way 80 steps times 15, 2,400 steps without a break, carrying 60 pounds on his back. That's how strong and dedicated Giancarlo Stanton is. 1 ball, 1 strike. 2-1. 1-0 favor of the Fish in the 4th inning. Stripling has made 63 pitches, trying to give the bullpen a rest if at all possible. 2 balls, 1 strike. Dietrich at first with 2 out. 2-1 pitch is taken low. 1 run, 3 hits for Miami. No runs, 2 hits for the Dodgers. Three balls, 1 strike. Big chopper up along third, foul. Barehanded by Turner. 3-2. So with 2 down, they'll turn Dietrich loose. Pitcher Wei-Yin Chen on deck. Grandal off the bag on the full count. Runner goes, base hit up the middle. So rounding second and then holding on is Dietrich. Echevarria, a sharp single. So all of a sudden, Stripling, for one reason or another, after 66 pitches being hit pretty hard. Breaking ball and a shot right by his right hip. So in the inning, a home run, and with 2 add back-to-back singles. So if nothing else, Stripling has a break. He'll be facing Wei-Yin Chen, the pitcher. Chen struck out in the 3rd inning. Fouled away into the crowd behind the Dodger dugout. No balls and 1 strike. It is now a beautiful evening in the ballpark. No wind, absolutely not a zephyr compared to what was going on an hour before the game and during the first 3 innings. It's beautiful. 0-1 to Chen. 2 on, 2 out. Number fouled. No balls and 2 strikes. Chen, of course, remember, spent his major league career in Baltimore. So he's not accustomed to swinging the bat. He is 0 for 6. He does have a sacrifice. 1 run, 4 hits for Miami. No runs, 2 hits for the Dodgers. 0-2 the count. Runners at first and second. Dietrich at second. Echevarria over at first. And the strike 2 pitch. In the dirt, nice block by AJ. And a new ball put in play. Pat Hoberg, a relatively young National League umpire. He's been umpiring since 2009, so he got here quickly enough. 1-2. And a breaking ball fouled away. Slow breaking ball. I didn't check the miles per hour on that curveball that came up there to Stanton. But as we told you, he's been clocked where the ball leaves his bat over 99 miles an hour. 70 pitches already now. Stripling trying to get an out and get out of the inning. Fastball foul back. So in the inning, Stanton buried one just inside the left field foul pole. Moore grounded out. Realmuto fly deep to left. Dietrich single to left. Echeverria single to center. And Chen just making stripling pitch. 1-2. Chopper up along first base, down to get it, and the play. So it goes 1-3. Stripling gets out of the jam. However, a home run plus 2 singles. 1 run, 3 hits, 2 left. The end at 3.5, 1-0 Miami. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by Jack in the Box. Taste the Baconlicious Sourdough Bacon Ranch Combo. Only at Jack in the Box. Bottom of the 4th inning, 1-0 in favor of Miami on the home run by Giancarlo Stanton. By the way, we were wondering what the velocity was on the ball that Stanton hit out. It was certainly a hanging curveball. It was 72 miles an hour. So that was a lollipop, and he really knew what to do with it. He just continues to wear the Dodgers out. 19 extra base hits, 11 home runs in 30 games against the Dodgers. Wow. For the Dodgers now in the bottom of the 4th inning, Yasiel Puig will check in. And he drives one to right. Standing going back to the track at the scoreboard. It's gone. And Puig has tied it up. So Yasiel Puig, remember when he first came up as a 5-tool player, he showed all 5 tools in one weekend. Well, we saw a couple of them in Colorado. That unbelievable throw, the great catch bouncing off the wall, and now a home run the other way to tie up the game. Justin Turner, a strike. Oh, Yasiel explodes for Chen. That would be the 3rd home run that he's allowed. 1 ball and 1 strike. He can do it all, and what's exciting, he's really showing it now in the early part of the season. A strike, 1-2. Boy, what a thrill if you're a baseball fan in the same city. Yasiel Puig and Mike Trout. Wow. One ball and two strikes. Well, that does it for Turner, who lined out, now strikes out. Third strikeout for Chen. It's worth taking a look at. Watch this. Uncoils. Powerful. Boy, he is big. And there was no doubt about it to right field. So here's Grandal, whose power is as a left-handed batter, playing first base tonight, hitting right-handed. Chen's tough enough. Two 2-0, straight changeup. Chen has made 48 pitches. Ross Stripling has made 72. One inning 28, another inning 22. That's another on that outside corner. Boy, he wears that thing out. One tie, bottom of the fourth. Fastball, high chopper up the middle. D. Gordon, plenty of time. Two down in the fourth inning. Trace Thompson coming up. He singled a left back in the second inning. Trace hitting .263. He had a 2-out single. Ellis followed with a line drive out to center. 1 run, 4 hits for the Marlins. 1 run, 3 hits for the Dodgers. Tomorrow night, Clayton Kershaw and Tom Kohler. Game 3, Scott Kazmir against Cossert, and then Maeda against Fernandez in the final meeting. 1 ball and 1 strike. There's Fernandez. Lorenzo Bundy, formerly with the Dodgers, right there with him. And a high drive into center field. That's got a lot to it. She is gone. And the Dodgers lead 2-1. So it's a tough ball game, and we've had 3 home runs, 2 by the Dodgers and 1 by the Marlins. Now there's Yasiel leading the cheers and hollering as Thompson gets a rub on the head, and the Dodgers put a run on the board. Trace got a fastball above the knees. Off-speed pitch for a strike. There they are, the home run hitters. Oh, 0-1. A one-hopper knocked down at first base by Bohr. By the time he picks it up, it's a foot race. But coming over to save the day is the pitcher Chen. So smiles in the Dodger dugout. Home runs by Puig. Home run by Thompson. Take a look at them back to back. First, Yasiel to right field. And then Trace Thompson going the other way. Like that. And at the end of 4, 2-1 Dodgers. Top of the fifth inning, Dodgers have turned it around 2-1. Chen way in, a little annoyed and upset over the home runs by Puig and Thompson. Puig, of course, started it by going the other way. Is that strong enough that he'll hit a no doubt home run to right? Thompson got the pitch that he felt he could head out and did. So 2-1 Dodgers. It's the Dodgers versus Giancarlo Stanton, who hit that monstrous home run leading off the fourth inning. So here's Gordon. Ball one. By the way, another tribute to Stanton comes by here just so briefly, and he is a local boy. That's ball two. This is the 16th game of the year, number 16. Stanton has already had 7 home runs and 16 runs batted in. 2-0 to D. 2-1. Gordon wants to be more aggressive than when he led with that .333 batting average. He said, if the count goes to 3-2, what do you think they're going to pitch me? Not a breaking ball. And he drives that in the gap, and it's high, and let's see where it lands. Thompson on the run, picks it off gracefully. Boy, he doesn't run. He glides. So D. Gordon, a long fly ball, very catchable for Thompson. Not many others. Look at those long strides. And Puig just going the other way, minding his own business. So 1 out in the fifth inning. That's what Stripling needs. There's the opposite, Gordon and Stanton. So Stripling now, 1 out in the fifth, and Osuna foul back. 0-1. For the Marlins, they're having a lot of problems in the sense their starting pitchers can't win. They have 2 wins from a starting pitcher. That's all. 2 runs, 4 hits for the Dodgers, 1 run, 4 hits for the Marlins. Mattingly and company trying to break the spell. They've lost 8 of the last 11. And a drive to center. Thompson goes back easily. So back-to-back fly balls to Trayce Thompson, and with 2 out, Christian Yelich coming up. Yelich, of course, has a big spot in the lineup. He's the number 3 hitter. Hitting behind him is Stanton. So anytime Yelich can get aboard, that puts more pressure on the pitcher to pitch to Stanton. Ball 1. Christian grounded out, fly to center. Has a little 5-game hitting streak. And there's Giancarlo. 2-0 the count. Two and 1. Ball 3. Well, I think when you have a man like Stanton in the on-deck circle, you're really pitching to 2 men. The actual hitter, and you're thinking about Stanton. Who wouldn't? Off speed. Though he took a little off the fastball. Yelich gets the base hit, and now there is far more pressure on Stripling. Well, one thing you would not expect Stripling to do this time is throw that 72-mile-an-hour curveball. The apple hanging on the limb. So here's Stanton. He is 6'5", 250 pounds. With all of it, he'll only be 26 in November. Ball 1. and fouled away. It was 6 years ago in June that Stanton made his major league debut and went 3 for 5, 2 runs scored, and his dad was in attendance to watch him break in. 10 days later, he hit his first major league home run, wouldn't you know, a grand slam. Stanton's name, even as a baby major leaguer, was immediately linked with Gary Sheffield. He had 5 hits and 4 RBIs in the same game. 1-2. Stanton was going way back. Coming out of high school, he was recruited by USC, a wide receiver and a defensive back. As we said, he's 6'5" and 250. Just missed. Boy, that was close. Stripling thought he finally got out of the way, and Roberts blistering the plate umpire. Close. All right, 2-2. High pop fly back of first, down the line, foul ground, and there is Grandal who can make it. Now that could be very, very important. Of course, remember, Grandal basically a catcher, but then again, catchers handle a lot of high foul balls. Oh, he was fooled. Looking, and then it landed about a foot to his right. He's going to his left. All right, we'll see just how important that is. 2 balls and 2 strikes. Yelich at first, 2 out, 5th inning. Stripling ready to make his 90th pitch. Stanton, 7 home runs, 16 runs batted in already. And he lines it into right center for a base hit. Puig can't cut it off. Let's see about Yelich. They're going to be waved in by Lenny Harris. The relay, no, Kendrick does not throw. And holding at second to drive in is Stanton. So that gives him 17 RBIs in his 16th game. He just wears the Dodgers out completely. So Stanton with a home run and a double has driven in 2. Clean as a whistle. Puig could not cut it off. Yelich runs very well. Lenny Harris waved him in. Kendrick started to go to the plate, and then he was afraid Stanton might go to third. So that foul ball that Grandal might have caught, that was a big play. He failed to make the play, and you just can't do that to Stanton. You get one chance to get him out. So 2-2 here in the 5th inning. And now Bohr, the first baseman, trying to pick up Stanton. And ball 1. 1-0. Bohr, powerhouse first baseman, but only 1 home run so far. And ball 2. So Stripling in a hole now. One of the things about the Marlins, they really don't strike out. They're 13th, the lowest on strikes. Stanton visiting with Charlie Culberson. Meanwhile, a lot of smiles back there. Dee Gordon, Lorenzo Bundy. 2-2, 5th inning. And that drops in nicely for a strike. So Ross Stripling, at the rate he's going, I don't think he'll pitch more than this inning. They're going to move around in the dugout. 2-1. 2-2. The Marlins, despite the fact they do have Stanton in the lineup, they're not a home run hitting team. They're 14th in the league. Adam Liberatore begins to warm up. Tim Wallach, Don Mattingly watching them tie it up. Two runs, 6 hits now for the Marlins. And that's going to be lined right. Puig racing over, makes the catch for the out. And that was hit hard. So I would guess that Stripling is done. Stanton hit a foul ball that could have been caught, should have been caught, wasn't caught. So he doubles to tie up the game, and we're 2-2. Padres fans are invited to sit on the field, enjoy Friday night fireworks presented by Denny's. This Friday's show features a musical tribute to Prince. For tickets, visit Dodgers.com/promotions. Chen even in the game 2-2 and starts off ball 1 to Charlie Culberson, whose single left in the 3rd inning got as far as 3rd. And that's hit in the air to right field, going back forward to Stanton. And we have 1 down here in the 5th inning. Chen is not only a good pitcher, he's a very intelligent pitcher and shows the intelligence even off the field. Once he signed a major league contract, the first thing he did was get involved with an English tutor. And he took at least 20 classes to learn the language. Ball 1. So Stripling still in there. He's made 95 pitches. 1 ball, no strikes. Liberatore had been throwing but stopped throwing, and apparently Stripling has assured his manager he still has a little gas in the tank. Bob Guerin talking with Dave. That's foul back. 1-2 the count. Tomorrow night, Clayton Kershaw and Tom Kohler. Following night, Scott Kazmir. Concluding game in the series, Kenta Maeda. Ground ball smothered by Dietrich. Gets up and throws him out. Nice play by Derek over there at 3rd base. Stripling losing a base hit. 2 down. And the batter now, Kike Hernandez. Fine play. He looked like Nolan Arenado on that play. Kike grounded out, struck out. 1 ball and no strikes. And ball 2. 2 runs, 6 hits for the Marlins. They scored in the 4th and 5th. The Dodgers scored twice in the 4th on home runs by Puig and Thompson. So the big boys are flexing their muscles. Right field is hallowed ground with Puig and Stanton out there. Yep. Nice fella. You'd like him if you met him. That goes to the backstop on ball 4. So Hernandez goes to first, a 2-out walk. And the batter will be Howie Kendrick. For Chen, who has gotten that first pitch over for a strike to please Mattingly. Now gives up his first walk. And here's Kendrick. Kendrick going the other way. Of course, he's a good hitter. What he does is hit whatever you give him. So if you kind of pitch him down, pitch him away, he'll go the other way. Fly to right, grounded to second. Big bouncer up the middle, backhanded by Gordon, steps on the bag, and that's the inning. So the Dodgers leave a man, and at the end of 5, we have a 2-2 tie. Years ago. That's right. 1976. Dodgers playing the Cubs. 2 guys trying to set fire to an American flag in center field, and Rick Monday scooping it up and running that flag to safety. It should always be remembered, the respect for the flag and a sign of the love for the country. And with that, let's go back to this one. Thank goodness for the safety of the flag, and heartfelt thanks to Rick, who spent 8 years playing for the Dodgers before moving into the booth. Real Muto, the catcher, 1-4-2. Foul back. It was way back in '81. Dodgers going right down to the wire. They're in Montreal for a Sunday game, trying to figure out how to get to the World Series. 1-2. I was doing football. I was in Minnesota. It was the Vikings and the Eagles, and the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles, Jim Murray, was a very deeply religious man. And there I was, and Jim came over and said, "I know where your heart is." He said, "I know you want to be in Montreal for the Dodger-Montreal game." And I said, "Jim, please, don't even think about it because I have a football game to do." I said, "And who knows? Maybe it'll rain in Montreal, and I'll do the game and then fly over tomorrow and do the game." And Jim said, "I can't believe you would say that." And I said, "What do you mean I'm at base hit to center?" He said, "If the game is rained out in Montreal, you can do this football game and then go back and do the baseball game tomorrow." He said, "I will truly believe there's a big Dodger in the sky." And that's exactly what happened. I did the football game, flew to Montreal. The next day, they had been rained out on Sunday. And, of course, Rick hit the big home run over the center field fence against Steve Rogers. And the Dodgers went to the World Series to become world champions. I can never forget that. So here's Dietrich. Takes a strike. 0-1. Real Muto, 2 for 3, standing at first base. Two-two tie in the 6th inning. That's flipped nicely on the corner. 0-2. A little surprised, but apparently he has assured the manager no sweat after 102 pitches. Roberts has J.P. Howell in the bullpen. 0-2. 1-2. Give you an idea as you look at Howell. Chen has made 66 pitches and he has 8 ground balls. Stripling has made 103 pitches and he's just starting out. Two and two. Howell is well rested. They had Libator Avilan, so he was the third left-hander and did not appear in that big game yesterday. 2-2 coming up to Dietrich. Just off the plate. So Stripling now 105 pitches, and I'm sure Dodger bench a little antsy now. Three and two the count. We'll see about Real Muto. Runner goes. And there's a drive into right center field. Here comes Puig. Can't get it. Falls down. The ball goes to the wall. Picked up by Thompson. Here comes Real Muto to score. Laboring over to third. And safe at third is Dietrich. So Dietrich drives it into right center. Puig tried to throw his body at the ball but couldn't get it. And by the time the ball is back to the infield, the hesitation, then the slip and the slide. Kendrick throwing over to third base. Nice use of the hand, though the body was not there to be tagged. Good play. You know, it reminds me of something, seeing him go in heat first. Probably the two best players in baseball today. We'll forget for a moment Puig and Stanton. The two players acknowledge Bryce Harper and Mike Trout. Infield's up now, nobody out. And there's a pop fly. Thompson was going the wrong way. Now here he comes. Dives and caught the ball. Trace Thompson misjudged it and wound up making a big catch. And with nobody out, Dietrich was not going to gamble. Thompson is a very good center fielder, but not on that play. He started back. Whoops. Coming over is Hernandez, but Thompson was able to catch up to it. So it's the old story. People say, boy, what a great catch. You say, wait a minute. He was going the wrong way. And that'll do it. That's as far as we shall go. Like Kansas City, everything's up to date. And Ross Stripling is going to come out. He has pushed his luck a little far, but what a game he pitched. He allows 3 runs, gets the club into the 6th inning, made 107 pitches, and comes out. We'll be back.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. Now pitching for the Dodgers, number 56, J.P.
Is brought to you by Nissan. Choose Nissan today for great offers on our most exciting lineup ever. Shop online at choosenissan.com. And by Carl's Jr., the $4 real deal, 4 items for just $4 at Carl's Jr. The Marlins have come back to lead 3-2. The Dodgers are fortunate that Thompson, after going the other way, was able to recover and allow the runner to stay at third. Infield is up. You think about squeeze, and the bunt is made, but it's not a squeeze. Ellis picks it up, throws to Kendrick, and holding at third is Dietrich. So all Chen does is bunt for an out, 2-3, make it 2-4. Holding at third is Dietrich, and the batter is D. Gordon. So you put the bunt on, but it is a safety squeeze with a hard safety on it. Dietrich unable to move at all with the ball hit right in front of the plate. So now D. Gordon grounded out, struck out, flied out, trying to be a real pest and get the run home with 2 out. And ball 1. For J.P. Howell, it's been a while. His last game was the 20th when the Dodgers were in Atlanta. He did not pitch at all in Denver. Been with the Dodgers since 2013. His overall record 14-5 and an ERA of 2.2. Been in over 200 games. Ross Stripling did certainly what the Dodgers needed. He got them into the 6th inning. And ball 2 on deck, Marcell Ozuna. A little while ago we were talking about Dietrich sliding into third, feet first. The University of Kentucky did a study about the difference head first and feet first. 2-0 pitch. Little roller to the right side, backhanded by Kendrick, and the Dodgers are out of a big jam. The run was in, and they had a runner at third and nobody out. Trayce Thompson wound up making a spectacular play after a spectacular misjudgment, and it's 3-2 Miami. Marlins. Remember, the Dodgers have beaten them here like a drum. 5 straight series. The Dodgers have won each series. Tonight, Marlins got a run. The Dodgers came back with 2, and undaunted, the Marlins came back with 2 more runs, 1 in each inning, to take the lead. Yasiel Puig is coming up. He homered in the 4th inning on the first pitch, like that. And I'm sure the scouts are making the point. Puig now has 18 home runs on the first pitch. 48 career home runs, so 1/3 of them on the first pitch. Let's see where this is. Going after it. Lewis Coleman, who is off the bereavement list, now begins to warm up in the Dodger bullpen. With Puig, the 18 home runs on the first pitch, in no other count does Puig have more than 6 home runs. 1-1. Puig struck out in the first inning, homered in the 4th. Good strike. Good sinking fastball at 91. Puig nods as if in full agreement with the umpire. Breaking ball. Good ball game tomorrow night. Clayton Kershaw and Tom Kohler. Following night, Kazmir and Cosart, and then Maeda and Fernandez. A.J. Ellis and Clayton, close buddies. One ball and 2 strikes. This is a little bit of a different game. On the road, the Dodgers were doing a lot of scoring early. Boom. Now he goes at a good 92-mile-an-hour fastball. So Puig has struck out twice, but he has homered. And the batter is Justin Turner, who is 0 for 2. 4 strikeouts for Chen. Turner lined out, struck out, 0 for 2. And a strike. Boy, that first pitch seems like it's always a strike. Of course, he's a good pitcher. The Marlins signed him to a 5-year, $80 million contract. 1-1. The deal could be worth almost $100 million if the option in the 6 years picked up. 1-2. Basically, in watching Chen, fastball, slider, curveball, splitter, and a change. Fouled away. They break down his pitching, saying that about 55% of the time it'll be a 4-seam fastball. The splitter, 12%. Two and two. He had Tommy John surgery way back in 2006. Two and two. 3-2. That last pitch had to be the splitter. 3-2. 3-2 is the score in favor of Miami. And we're in the bottom of the 6th. Fastball whacked into left field. Base hit. Yelich gets it back in. So Turner goes 1 for 3 with a line drive single, and Yasmani Grandal coming up.
First baseman number 9, Yasmani Grandal.
Boy, Yasmani Grandal, I'm sure he's thinking about the foul ball he should have caught, might have caught, but didn't. And that allowed Stanton to have an extra swing, and he made the most of it. A double to drive in Yelich. So Stanton tonight has a walk, a home run, and an RBI double. It's 3-2 Marlins. And here's Grandal. Grounded to third, grounded to second. And there it is. Fastball, first pitch, strike. And the location of the fastball is terrific. Down around the knees. Ground ball hard, backhanded by Dietrich down to second. Gordon juggles, throws, and they get the double play anyway. So Grandal rips it, and Dietrich comes up with another fine play, and Gordon's grinning, able to get the man even though he juggled a little bit. So a fine play. 5-4-3. Dodgers are out, and at the end of 6, it's worth another look. Backhand, a one-hopper. There's the juggle, and plenty of time still to get Yasmani. Jump on the Dodgers. Game 1 of the 4-game series, leading 3-2 behind another powerful performance by Giancarlo Stanton. The Dodgers, meanwhile, go back to the bullpen. Howell got his men out. He needed to get 2, and he did. So now Lewis Coleman, who left the Dodgers, the bereavement lead, went back for the funeral of his grandfather. And a drive to center, going back on the ball. Thompson to the track and leaps up to make the catch. They got a good jump on that one. And Ozuna goes out 1 away. Friends, be one of the first 40,000 in attendance Wednesday with the Marlins and receive a Dodger fleece blanket courtesy of LG. For tickets, head to Dodgers.com/promotions. So 1 away, and now here's Christian Yelich. Yelich 1 for 3, single to center, came home on Stanton's double. Ball 1. Look at that average. 377. One of the top hitters in the league now. 2-0 to Christian. off speed. On Flag Day, a salute to Rick Monday, one of the many posters. 3-0. 3-1. For the first time tonight, the Flags are going the other way. That's kind of a goofy evening here. Check swing, and they're going to call him back. It's a strike. Third base umpire Bill Miller, who's the crew chief. Interesting. He does everything else right-handed and just happened to pick up a bat as a little boy. Swung it left-handed, and that's it. Here he is in the big leagues. Off speed, got him on the corner. 82 miles an hour, and down he goes. So Coleman gets a fly ball to center deep, strikes out Yelich, and here comes Stanton bidding for a perfect night. Breaking ball and strike three. Yelich couldn't believe it. Stanton walked in the first inning, homered in the fourth, doubled in the fifth. Look out there. Wow. So Stanton has one getaway. No balls, one strike. Oh, and 1. Chasing a slider down and away. 0-2. And another slider got him. So for Stanton, that ruins what was a perfect night. Walk, home run, double, RBI, and now strikes out. So Coleman does his job, and we're heading to the bottom of the 7th, 3-2 Miami. Seesaw ball game. We go to the bottom of the 7th inning. 3-2 Miami. Trace Thompson singled and homered. 2 for 2 at the plate. Wei-Yin Chen still in the ball game. Fastball. 1 ball, 1 strike. Chen, 83 pitches. Ross Stripling, 5 1/3 innings, 107. Then Howell and now Coleman. 1-1. Missed that outside corner. 2-1. Change. Slow breaking ball. 2-2. I'm sure during the 4-game series we will see Ichiro. 2-2. Foul back. I just learned something about Ichiro. They always said, and I've seen it written 100 times, that Ichiro means first son, even though he was the second son in the family. But that's not true. There's one character that's a bit different, so that Ichiro's name roughly means brightest, most cheerful. Ichiro has a brother who's a fashion designer. Ichiro gave to Japan a lot of money after the earthquake. Check swing. No swing. 3-2. Ichiro gave away about $1.25 million. Liebertor and Blanton down in the Dodger bullpen. If they get anything going, they would bat for Coleman. 3-2. Fast sinker, and he just did get a little of it. Also talking about Ichiro, Don Mattingly did an interesting thing. The Mets and the Marlins were playing at Citi Field, and Mattingly started Ichiro in center field. Fly ball to center, very playable. Waiting for it is Osuna. Run away. The reason why Mattingly did it, it was rather historic. There have only been, now that Ichiro played center field and Mattingly started him, there are only 4 men who started in center field 40 years old. They would be Willie Mays, Carl Yastrzemski, Steve Finley, and Ichiro. Rather remarkable. The only 4 to have started a game in center field older than 40. So somewhere during these 4 games, we'll see Ichiro for sure. 2-0 to Ellis. Fly to center, grounded to first. Kyle Bearclaw and Cody Edgy throwing now in the Marlin pen. Ground ball under the glove, through into center field. So the Dodgers get Ellis aboard, representing the tying run, and it'll bring up Charlie Culberson.
Shortstop number 6, Charlie Culberson.
For the Dodgers, pecking away at Chen. They have 2 runs and 6 hits. Corey Seager comes out on deck. He would bat for Coleman. Three runs, 8 hits for the Marlins. 2 runs, 6 hits for the Dodgers. Juan Nieves going out, talking to his pitcher. Actually talking to his catcher. Chen, as we told you, does speak some English, so no interpreter. Well, in any language, a pat on the fanny means hang in there. So Chen got both. Charlie Culberson coming up with Corey Seager on deck. 3 runs, 8 hits for the Marlins. 2 runs, 6 hits for the Dodgers. Culberson single to left, fly to right. Dodgers left him at third. There was a pass ball involved as well. ball one. That's a rare time tonight that he didn't come close to getting strike one on the first pitch. And that's hit in the air to right center field. Cutting over is Stanton to make the catch, and Ellis gets back to first base. So Culverson, fly ball to right center, 2 down, and Corey Seager coming up. So Corey needed a rest after the grueling time in Denver. 2 home runs, 12 runs batted in. Corey in the last game that wound up that wild score, he was 2 for 5 in the game and had a great series in Colorado, going 5 for 12. He has a little 4-game hitting streak. 2 out, tying run Ellis with a very short lead at first. Fly ball to shallow left field. Yelich coming up and has it get away from him. Yelich actually had his glove the wrong way. So Christian should have made that play. Chen is a little hot. So Yelich coming. Now watch the glove. He's going to push it backhanded and down. He was really in an awkward spot. So a fly ball that should have been caught easily. It'll be an error by the left fielder, Christian Yelich. Well, the Dodgers got a bad break when Grandal missed the foul ball, and that gave Stanton an extra swing, and he doubled in the go-ahead run. Now the error. Of course, at the same time, A.J. Ellis is going to be a tough man to score. So Don Mattingly is going out to the mound, and we shall see. One thing about Chen, it could be a little bit of an insight. In the first 6 innings, he allowed only 4 balls hit in the air. In this inning, he's allowed 2 balls hit in the air for outs and should have had the 3rd. We'll be right back. Dodger Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by BMW. See a Southern California BMW Center today for exceptional offers, or visit SoCalBMW.com. And by Children's Hospital Los Angeles. We treat kids better. Chen a little upset. Easily fly ball, kind of misjudged by Christian Yelich, and then an awkward attempt to glove it. Otherwise, the inning's over and he's still in there, having made 95 pitches. So he goes out winning, but possibly even losing. And Kyle Bearclaw, that's how you pronounce that name, Bearclaw. He's from Santa Clara, went to school at St. Mary's, and was drafted by the Cardinals just 4 years ago. He's a big fella. He's 6'3", 225 pounds, right-handed all the way. Fastball, ball one at 96. When he was in college, he passed Tom Candiotti in strikeouts. Now he's working against Chase Utley, who's been absolutely marvelous in his play since the season began. 345 on the road trip, hitting .319. Batting for Hernandez. 2 on, 2 out. That misses. 2-0. Chen hoping to see Bearclaw get him out of the inning. The Cardinals thought they had a closer in Bearclaw. Time. Cardinals picking Bearclaw in the 7th round. The Marlins traded for Steve Chisak to St. Louis to get Kyle. He's a power arm, but a veteran hitter, Hundley, against him. 2-0. Fastball in there at 97. Yep, that's a power arm. Thompson, Coleman, shoulder to shoulder, and Hundley trying to keep it going. Seager at first, Ellis the tying run at second. 2-2. Took a lot off from 97 to 84. Back-to-back pitches. So Kyle David Bearclaw, recently at New Orleans, called up after just 3 games down there. Fastball, slider, and a splitter. Once in a while he'll throw a changeup, and he said he hadn't thrown a changeup since he was in college. 2-2, so deuces are really wild. 2 balls, 2 strikes, 2 out, 2 on. 3-2 in favor of the Marlins. So the Dodgers get a little bit of a break now. With a full count and 2 down, A.J. Ellis, who is not the speediest of men, will be in motion. Seager right behind him. Remember, the Dodgers have used both catchers, Grandal at first and Ellis behind the plate. So a big moment now. 3-2 to Hundley. 2 on, 2 out, and there they go. And it's strike 3 call. Hundley on his way to first base and called out on strikes. For the Dodgers, no runs, 1 hit, 1 error, 2 left. And at the end of 7, 3-2 Miami. Miami, top of the 8th inning. Chase Utley called out on strike, stays in the game at second base. Howie Kendrick, who was in second base, is now out there in left field. Corey Seager, who batted and reached on the error by Yelich, stays in the game at short. And Adam Liberatore takes over on the mound. So Liberatore, after the other left-hander Howell got 2 big outs, now it's up to Adam. 1 ball, no strikes. Breaking ball, ground ball wide to Grandal. He'll do it himself. So 1 away. Tough ball game. 3 home runs. Stanton with nobody on. Puig with nobody on. Thompson with nobody on. Then Stanton doubled in a run after a high foul ball was misjudged by Grandal, which gave Stanton another pitch, and he promptly doubled in what is now the difference in the game. Realmuto, 4 hits yesterday against the Giants and promptly singled his first time up tonight. 2 for 3. Right. Stripling, Howell, Coleman, Liberatore, Chen, and Bearclaw so far for Miami. Oh and 1. Soft line drive and a great diving catch by Grandal. So Yasmani, playing wide of the bag, takes a base hit away from Realmuto, and he's able to reach and backhand it before going down. Chris Johnson is now going to come up and bat for Derek Deach. Wonderful play by Grandal. So Johnson batting from Dietrich, who was make it 2 for 3 and sparkled defensively at third base. Let's see if Johnson is going to stay in. Well, Liberatore is going out, so we'll wait for the next move and we'll be right back. A new low price in 2016. You can watch every out-of-market game of all 30 teams live in true HD on over 400 supported devices. Blackouts and other restrictions apply, but visit MLB.tv for details. Chris Johnson is coming up to bat for Dietrich. That's a tough move. Dietrich has sparkled at third, and he was 2 for 3, a single and a triple. So Joe Blanton now comes in, the 5th Dodger pitcher, to face Chris Johnson. and throws it over his head to the backstop. An off-speed pitch. Ball one. One ball and no strikes. That was not one of those intentional pitches. That just got away. One ball and no strikes to Chris. He's 6'3", 220. Sliced foul. First row, second deck. 32 years old in October. Born in Naples, Florida. Went to Stetson University. Check swing. It'll cost him a strike. He's the son of former big leaguer Ron Johnson. The advice that Chris got about going to the big leagues, his dad said, relax, don't do anything stupid, and just play the game hard. 2-2. What qualifies for being stupid? Well, Chris said, when he said don't do anything stupid, he meant opening my mouth or trying to show people up. Chris Johnson. 2-2. Just missed. In the baseball parlance, they would accuse Pat Hoberg of squeezing the pitcher. Well, it's off the plate, no doubt about it. All right, 3-2. Check swing, strike three. So Johnson strikes out. It's a 1-2-3 inning. And now the Dodgers will be coming up in the bottom of the eighth inning. Kendrick, Puig, and Turner. And we're heading for the bottom of the eighth. 3-2 Miami. Three-two favor the Marlins. Bottom of the eighth inning. Here's a quick look at the box score. Puig with a home run. Turner is 1 for 3. Trace Thompson a home run and a single, and then Ellis and Culberson a couple of singles. So the Dodgers held to 2 runs and 6 hits as we go to the bottom of the eighth. Couple of moves by Miami. Chris Johnson stays in the game at first base, and the new third baseman, welcome back to Dodger Stadium, Miguel Rojas. He played for the Dodgers very briefly in 2014. David Phelps, big boy out of St. Louis, Missouri, went to school at Notre Dame. 6'2", 190. And ball one to Howie Kendrick. Kendrick 0 for 3. Fastball foul right into the mask of Real Muto. 1 ball and 1 strike. Kendrick, Puig, Turner. Fastball fouled off at 90. So Kendrick facing David Phelps. He has a brother who was a minor leaguer in the Cubs organization. Finally left. He's got a good fastball, curveball, slider, and a changeup. He signed with the Yankees coming out of Notre Dame. 1-2. Fastball. The Yankees and the Marlins made a deal. The Marlins sent former Dodger pitcher Nathan Eovaldi. And the Marlins acquired Phelps and the veteran infielder Martin Prado. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Got him. 95-mile-an-hour fastball puts Kendrick away.
Right fielder, number 66, Yasiel Puig.
Yasiel Puig struck out in the first inning, homered on the first pitch in the 4th inning, and then struck out again in the 6th. Phelps uses his sinker more than any other pitch. There it is right there, but a little low. Ball 1. And popped up, jammed him. And D. Gordon puts that away. So 2 down, and Justin Turner coming up. Nice crowd on hand despite the high winds and the cold weather. We have 44,954. 44,954. Tomorrow night, Clayton Kershaw and Tom Kohler. Justin Turner tonight lined out to third, struck out, single left. Sinker, 1 ball and no strikes. Fastball, little fly ball, shallow right. Stanton in a hurry, can't get it. So Turner drops a little fly ball for a single. He's 2 for 4. And the Dodgers again have the tying run aboard. Went down to get it. Looked like it was going to be an out, but it carried just far enough. Stanton could not possibly catch up to it. So Turner keeps the inning alive with 2 out, and here's Yasmani Grandal, who now can turn around and bat left-handed. He was 0 for 3 against Chen, grounded to third, grounded to second, and hit into a double play. Ball 1. Oops. The crowd is booing. I think we all thought that was ball 1, but the plate umpire, Pat Hoberg, apparently indicated no. It's 0-1 strike, so we'll have to change the count. And another strike. 0-2 to Yasmani. It's been Chen, Bearclaw, and Phelps. Missed inside at 94. 2-2. Phelps working on Grandal. Turner at first, the tying run. We're in the bottom of the 8th inning, and Miami leads 3-2. 2-2 to Grandal with 2 out. Comebacker. Phelps has it. That'll be that. So no runs, 1 hit, a man left, and at the end of 8, Miami 3 and the Dodgers 2. It's been cool, but when you look at the family, you see the big difference. The boy, half asleep, leaning on mom, and the girl is bare-armed. We are all different, aren't we? Into the 9th we go, 3-2 Miami. And ball 1. Echeverria lying. How about that hat? Now, hot dogs. That's a beauty. 2-0 the count. Well, they always say to a showboat ball player, put a little mustard on it. Well, I think there's a little mustard coloration anyway on the hot dog. That's great. Ball 3. Echeverria has hit into a double play, singled and flied out. Phelps due up next. That's a strike. Joe Blanton seems like a little thing, but he moved on the rubber. He now stands on the third base side of the rubber, and it's helped him a great deal. 3-2. Fastball slider. He just got the slider over. So for the Dodgers, after using 7 pitchers in Denver, they come home and they're using 5. There you can see his position on the rubber. Slicing fly ball down the line. Puig coming over. It's going to be a foul ball and in the stands. In the 4th inning, Giancarlo Stanton homered on a 72-mile-an-hour hanging curveball. Dodgers came back in the bottom of the 4th and had home runs by Puig and Thompson. Then in the 5th inning, Yelich singled with 2 out. Stanton hit a foul ball that Grandal might have caught but didn't. That allowed Stanton another swing, and he doubled in the go-ahead run. So 1 away.
Third baseman number 19, Miguel Rojas.
Miguel Rojas came in and took over at third base, batting ninth. Zach Lee recently called up, throwing in the Dodger bullpen. A.J. Ramos in the pen for Miami. There's Zach. Right, 0-1. 3 runs, 8 hits, 1 error for Miami. 2 runs, 7 hits, no errors for the Dodgers. Big swing, nothing at the end of it. 0-2 the count to Miguel Rojas. Rojas from Venezuela. He was with the Dodgers briefly a couple of years ago, 2014 to be exact. Played in 85 games. Struggled, however, and hit only 181. Hard worker, fine defensive player. Rojas went away with Dee Gordon in the deal that brought the Dodgers Andrew Heaney, Chris Hatcher, Kike Hernandez, and Austin Barnes. Waiting on deck, Dee Gordon. Another foul ball. For Rojas, he said he worked awfully hard all winter, taking a lot of lessons from John Valentin and Mark McGuire, the hitting coaches. One and two. Rojas is so good with the glove. A lot of people compare him to Omar Vizquel, who was brilliant. Big chopper to the left is short. On it is Seager. 2 down. So the batter will be Dee Gordon to look ahead for the Dodgers in the 9th inning. They will have Thompson, Ellis. Seager will bat 4th. Dodgers have Adrian Gonzalez on the bench. That would be the ace of spades if they make the move with him. And ball 1 to Gordon. Ground ball into the hole. Plugging it up is Utley to make the play. All right. We are heading for the bottom of the 9th. 3-2 Miami Marlins. And we'll be back right after this. Miami, bottom of the 9th inning. A.J. Alejandro Ramos, who had Tommy John surgery back in college at Texas Tech. He was born in Lubbock, Texas. So he's going to try and shut down the Dodgers, who will have Trayce Thompson, A.J. Ellis, and coming out now, Jock Peterson. So we better hold off and wait and see. So Ramos has concluded his warm-ups, signed by the Marlins in 2009. So Trayce Thompson for the Dodgers tonight had a single in the 2nd inning, and then in the 4th unloaded against Chen. So 2 for 3, fly to center last time up. When Ramos started his major league career, the first game, he struck out the side. And that was the heart of Milwaukee's lineup. Ricky Weeks, then Ryan Braun, and Aramis Ramirez. So hitters talk about getting a base hit or a home run. Well, he started off big time. 1 ball and no strikes. Foul back. Interesting story about Ramos and his debut in the big leagues. 1 ball and 1 strike. Oh, nice pitch. Ramos struck out the side, and the last man to touch the ball was so excited he threw the ball into the stands behind the Marlins dugout. He finally got the ball. 2-2 the count. When they threw the ball into the stands, it landed with a youngster. So they got another ball out of the ball bag and begged the kid, please give me the ball back. And they got it back, and he has it. Great memory in his first game. 2-2. Big chopper, fair ball, backhanded, and what a play. Wow, no wonder. We were talking earlier about third baseman Derek Dietrich, and when Rojas takes over, you say, wow, they're going to take Dietrich out for him. Well, that's why. Look at this. Not only does he get over the backhand, he has no time to set, off balance, and it's right on the money. No wonder they talked about Omar Vizquel. Wow. Big play for the first out. Jock Peterson will now come up and bat for A.J. Ellis, and Adrian Gonzalez is on deck. Boy, that was a great play by Rojas. And remember, he's been sitting in the dugout taking the game in. Ellis, while he was in there, fly to center, grounded out, single to center. Off speed, ball 1 to Peterson. 1 out in the 9th. 3-2. Gonzalez waiting on deck. Two and 0. So the Dodgers have used Utley, Seager, and now Peterson coming off the bench. Roberts tried to rest some of the regulars. This kind of a play, he's had to use some of them. That's a strike. Senior umpire Bill Miller calls it. That came around pretty much. Yeah. 2 balls, 1 strike. Fastball at 92. We were talking about Ramos and the way he broke in. He also bumped into U2, Bono and U2, and that's the second biggest thrill for him. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Time, no pitch, no pitch. And the ball dropped by Ramos. For fear of injury, the umpire always calls time. If the hitter's just not ready, you can't let the pitcher pitch. 2-2. One out in the ninth, 3-2 Miami. Ramos, the 4th Miami pitcher. All right, that runs the count 3-2 with Adrian Gonzalez on deck. Basically, fastball, cutter, slider, and a changeup. Throws that 4-seamer about half the time. A lot of changeups to left-hand batters. About 18%. That last pitch was the change. Ball 4. So the Dodgers still very much alive. They have the tying run aboard. They've had the tying run aboard almost every inning. In fact, they've had a man on base in the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and now 9th. And here is Adrian Gonzalez. Crowd of 44,000 coming alive now as Gonzalez checks in. 1 for 3 with an RBI in his last game in Denver. And a strike, 0-1. Adrian has a little 6-game hitting streak. He's not happy with the call. Oh and 1 to Adrian. And still, now he quiets and settles at the plate. A little unhappy on the call. Peterson at first with 1 out, back on the bag. Mattingly flashing a sign. Maybe feeling Jock might be going. He's got a strike, so if he wants to pitch out, he might do it now. Peterson does not go. Fouled away. 0-2. In the 6th inning, the go-ahead run, and that was the pop fly in foul ground. Grandal unable to catch it. Normally he would have, I feel. Dietrich tripled. Earlier there was a pop fly at Stanton. Got the extra swing and doubled in the run. 3 runs, 8 hits, 1 error for Miami. 2 runs, 7 hits, no errors on a hand-blowing night at Dodger Stadium. 0-2 to Adrian Gonzalez. 1 out. Peterson, very short lead at first. So Ramos goes 1 ball and 2 strikes. For the Dodgers, Culberson, Thompson, Kike, and of course Clayton Kershaw. Joe Blanton watching carefully. 1-2 the count. Got him. So Adrian comes off the bench and strikes out. And the Dodgers now down to their last out, and it's Corey Seager. Well, the bottom dropped out of that thing. So Gonzalez walks away empty-handed, and Corey Seager, who reached on the fly ball, and Yelich was not really in a position to catch it ordinarily. Tried to backhand it with the the mitt of the glove actually facing the ground. Couldn't handle it for the error. And a strike. 3 runs, 8 hits, 1 error for the Marlins, who have lost 8 of the last 11. The Dodgers 2 runs, 7 hits and no errors. They have won 8 of 11. That thing almost went to the backstop. Ramos almost stumbled in his follow through. AJ is not a big man. The other fellows coming in are all big. He's 5'10". 1 ball, 1 strike. Fastball at 91. Seager, I think, was looking fastball, seemed to get out in front of it. Ball had good movement too, spinning just slightly away. Two and two. Well, that's as hard as he's thrown, 95. And coming up will be his 20th pitch. Chen, who started, made 95. Stripling, who started for the Dodgers, made 107. 2 and 2. Got him. So Seager can't believe it. He's called out on strikes. And down go the Dodgers. And how sweet it is for those former Dodgers, including Don Mattingly, to come in and win the first game of a 4-game series. Remember, they had lost 5 straight series here at Dodger Stadium. So the totals 3-8-1 for Miami. 2 runs, 7 hits, and no errors for the Dodgers. Certainly the player of the game, of course, Giancarlo Stanton. Hit that curveball at 72 miles an hour, hit that into the lower deck. Then hit the double when the ball was not caught by Grandal for a foul ball that would have been an out. And that double drove in what turns out to be the winning run. So that'll do it, with a lot more tomorrow night. It'll be Clayton Kershaw, Tom Kohler. Hope you'll join us. If not, we'll talk to you then. We wish you all a very pleasant good evening, everybody.